Welcome to the Root of It All podcast with Tree, your human behavior expert. Did you ever wonder why you have the behaviors that you have or how to change them? Did you ever wonder about different people in different industries and what made them good at what they do? Well, this is the podcast for you. You're learning all about human behavior from the experts. So cozy up, go for a walk, or go for that drive that you've always wanted to, and get ready to learn. Learn about you, learn about others, because us as humans, we are the funniest creatures on this planet. So let's learn together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of a Root of It All podcast with Tree. And today I have a very interesting guest, and we're actually recording. We didn't intend to, but wow, I needed to stop her in her story because you guys need to hear this and it needs to be recorded organically. So this is Sarah Jackle, and she is the founder of DemocraShe. And I hope I didn't mispronounce that and you can correct me, but this is very interesting. So listen up, everybody. So welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tree.
And so teach people what it is that you do for your business, because this alone is super interesting. So teach people about that.
Thank you. So DemocraShe, we work with historically underserved high school girls to become future leaders, voters, civically engaged citizens, and elected officials, and just generally be in every room where decisions are being made. We teach our girls public policy skills about how to understand civics and how to get involved in their communities. And we also teach them the neuroscience of their brain and how it might keep them hesitating from stepping up and going after their ambition, and also how to protect their nervous system if somebody is pushing back on them, so they keep going on their very valuable tracks and they don't get pushed off.
Mm-hmm. Which is hugely valuable. I mean, everybody listening to this knows that I very much teach people how it is to change in their nervous system. So a lot of the people listening to this is going to really tuck in with what you're talking about and be interested in all of this stuff, because it has such a huge part of how we live our lives and how it is that we operate in the world around us. So the next question that I'm going to ask you that I want everyone to hear is, so the answer to it, the question is the question, but the answer to how did you get into this? This is so fascinating.
Yeah, so Tree, I was a social worker who worked with our homeless community dealing with mental illness. I got a master's in public policy and a master's in social work to work with them, and a military master's in social work because there's so much trauma in that population. And I wanted to understand the nervous system and understand how to serve them better. And then in 2014, I was diagnosed with a brutal autoimmune disease called psoriatic arthritis. And a very kind rheumatologist told me I would never work again, that it wasn't fair. It was just the nature of the disease. And 100% for 2 years, I lived on a couch right next to a very sweet puppy dog named Max. But during that time, Tree, I knew I couldn't control the pain that I was in or the fatigue that I felt, but I could control how I was going to show up in this moment. Mm-hmm. So I got really into studying the brain and studying the neuroscience behind trauma, behind nervous system dysregulation, and the different modalities that have helped humans overcome adversity. And I just kind of immersed myself in that. Then in 2016, with the election of 2016, I was like, I am not sitting this out. So I turned kind of all of that research that I've been doing and studying I've been doing into tangible brain hacks that helped me just get in the car, and then I can get out. Just drive there. And then, just register one voter. And I ended up doing this so successfully that I became a national outreach director at a voter registration group called Field Team 6. I became the Get Out the Director for the California National Organization for Women. And that is where I saw amazing women, brilliant, incredible women who couldn't see themselves as candidates for office, whereas men tend to self select in.
Mm,
And I also saw that when women did step out into public service, in Facebook in 2020, they found female candidates got up to 10 times more harassment and bullying than the male candidates. And it occurred to me that this is what I had trained for. I had studied the brain and studied the nervous system and studied how to overcome adversity, how to step out of your comfort zone. And I could take all of that and teach it to high school girls because high school is the last time boys and girls think they can run for office equally, which is a proxy for young women's confidence.
mm,
So, right where we lose our girls, give them not only the civics and public policy skills to get immediately engaged in their communities, know that their voice matters, their lived experience matters, but also some very handy neuro based toolbox skills
yeah.
to overcome the adversity we know they're going to face on their path.
And it's really great that you're actually getting them at that age because I find too that people, when they're in high school, they have more creativity. Like they haven't had the stresses of like a house, a mortgage, or um, a family, or having kids, or all of those things. So there's a lot more creativity that's going on in their mind, their body, the things that they're seeing. They also have the freedom to be creative as well because they don't have the pressures of uh being a full-on like adult from that. So to learn that skill set when they're that open, I find it sticks better as well. And that they actually have proof that they could, oh, I can do this and I can do that, as opposed to feeling bogged down by other elements in life. So what are like some things that you found perhaps challenging for things for people at that age demographic to learn? Or the opposite, what are like the great things that they just like soak in and really take it home?
You know, I think one of the hardest things to learn is that their voice actually matters in our democracy.
Mhm.
Most of our girls are under 18 and they can't vote yet. And they are largely discounted by the electoral system and by the democratic system because they can't yet vote. So, really internalizing as a young girl who's 14, 15, 16,
Mhm.
that not only does their voice matter, not only would it be amazing if America truly reflected all of its people, including their own valuable lived experience, but there are immediate ways that they can get involved. They can volunteer on a nonprofit, they can volunteer on campaigns, they can run for office at their school. They can start a youth engagement nonprofit. They can start a conference. And so watching these girls light up as they realize how valuable their experience is and that they can immediately be heard and be counted by our country is, I think, the most like it's the hardest thing for them to see at first, but it's also the most valuable. I think to your point, high school girls are amazing and they are deeply underestimated. So girls are already incredible. And the easy thing for them is to take the creativity you were talking about and the light that they have and the ambition that they have and turn that into hope and turn that into leadership because it is already inherent in them. We don't have to tease it out of them. They all have it. It's just about turning it into skills where when life pushes back on them, because usually once they leave high school, especially, it really starts pushing back. They have the skills to keep going with the light and the creativity and the optimism and the hope that they had in high school.
Mhm. And I think for all of us, even as grown women, so that creating that foundation at the age that you're helping them at, that even when they're getting into more adulthood and adult situations, the skill set that you're teaching them, they're becoming more confident in making decisions or coming more confident in actually doing different things that they want to do, where whether it's like what they want to do for financial compensation for their time, energy, and resources. So like a job or whatever the case may be. Um, I was just sitting around with a bunch of other female business owners, and the support in this area, like we're up here in Canada, just outside of Toronto, and we were talking about the power of the networking groups that we have in and around this area, and I'm sure all over North America, but just the whole theme of women supporting women. Like I did another podcast with Andrea Address, and she's a huge advocate for this association that she created called She Is, and she supports women in sports, no matter what age. So whether like any women in sports, because when you look at even male sports and what they are getting paid and the following where she's getting to she's creating the following, the support system for women as well. So I feel what you are doing is creating this whole new generation of women that have that mindset of supporting or giving themselves permission to be whatever they want to be, whether it's in politics, whether it's in sciences, whether it's in law, whether it's in uh, architectural or whatever the case may be. But that's so great that you're giving them sort of this platform that they can then take the skills and tools that you're teaching them and apply it to other elements in their lives. So do you still keep in contact with the women that you've or the young adults that you've helped and then they come back to you and be like, "Hey Sarah, this is what I'm doing now." Like tell us some stories
So,
of that.
and before I answer that question, I just wanted to touch on what you said about women lifting women.
Yeah.
I think supportive communities where women have each other's backs is incredibly important. And actually, Tree, high school is the opposite of that because everyone is competing for a very few spots in college. And so if you, Tree, do something good, that is a direct threat to me because we're both applying to the same place. So there's a real scarcity model and cutthroat model in high school. And part of the reason, and one of the reasons I wanted to intervene in high school was because it's the last time boys and girls think they can run for office equally. But it was also because sometimes that cutthroat model carries through with how women relate to other women. And I think we need to intervene right at this very neuroplastic time and set up a different space where one of the questions we ask women are, what are you proud of yourself for? Because women are not encouraged to say what they're proud of, but then having other sisters, other DemocraShe sisters, say why they are proud of you for that. Or we do compliment breakouts as part of the workshop where I say what I admire about you and why you're such a light. And it's a sisterhood. And they take that very seriously. And I think getting in high school a space where it's safe and okay for women to lift women, and you see how valuable that is, turns into adult women who lift other women and find spaces where they can have each other's backs. And I think we do need to start that very young, or you can get the cutthroat model where it's women who undercut women. But
Mm.
that's not the world I want to see. So I think
Nor
it's
do
an
I. I don't want
interesting,
to see that.
right? We don't want to see that. So I just wanted to say to your point, that is one of our founding moments is to be sisters and to uplift each other. So in our model, the girls go through the program and then they come back and lead it.
Mm.
So the rooms are high school girls being taught by other high school girls. And then college girls come back as workshop facilitators and sometimes facilitators. So our model, they keep going through. They become our social media team, our outreach team, our alumni team. Our girls are our structure because we want them to not only know that we believe in them as leaders, we want to give them opportunities to lead. So I have stayed in touch with many girls because they're in DemocraShe for years. And I think I think of the girls, one of the skills they learn to encourage them to be brave and go after their ambition is a skill called inner best friend. So we're all very familiar with the inner critic who chimes in and says, this won't work. It's not your time, right? And that is the ancient part of the survival part of the brain that thinks it's helping.
Mhm.
One of the ways to correct that is to have this ally of your inner best friend and asking you, Tree, what would your inner best friend say to you right now in this situation? And so I hear from so many girls how they use a skill like inner best friend. Amanda was studying people who'd been disappeared in South America, and she wanted to go for an Obama fellowship, but her imposter syndrome really kicked in. And she was like, I'll never get it. I mean, so many people apply, that'll never happen. But she was from DemocraShe. So she asked herself, what would my inner best friend say?
Mhm.
And her inner best friend says, why not you? You're amazing. You're incredible. This work is important. Turn it in. What do you have to lose? And then she got it. So she is an Obama fellow now. And that was a inflection moment
Mhm.
where she could have opted out, or she can use her toolbox and go for something that she's excited about. So we've had girls use their inner best friends to do the first youth reproductive rights conference in Chicago. That girl had 55 girls email her that they were so moved by what she put together that they were starting programs at their own schools to do reproductive justice work. We've had girls actually run for office and been student school board seats with voting privileges who were the youngest elected official in Maryland. And that's not where a woman's journey ends, right? It's not just with the title, it's not just with the promotion, it's not just with the election. And this student got real pushback from other school board members who dismissed her and were kind of contemptuous. So she used one of our resiliency skills of savoring the good. So science shows, right, that we have a negativity bias with the brain, right? That's just the nature of the brain. But when you ask yourself to consciously notice things that are beautiful or joyful, you can start to gently retrain your brain to pick up on these things. So she savored the very small wins that she had in office so that she would keep going. And in the end, she got mental health counselors for all of her constituents, which was her main goal. And it was savoring the small wins that let her achieve that.
And that's beautiful. Like when you see somebody go forward in such a way and bring their own ups and then getting everybody else to actually like lifting everybody else up to where they are, right? And that's really how we should be, all of us as human beings, as opposed to putting people down or telling people that they can't or thinking that we are in competition. And you're right, like our nervous system, we go fear first because us as humans, right? Like our nervous system, it's a protection mechanism. So it goes like, am I safe or am I not? So when you're looking at all of these young girls and they're like, am I safe or am I not? They could go in then the cognitive side of being like, oh, maybe I'm not, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, or maybe I'm not good enough. And when we call with Fitzpearls, so Fitzpearls is one of the people that we study and practice after, and he always talks about maturity is about moving through frustrated desire alone because it's all internal in our mind. So it's great that you're teeing these girls up and loading them up with all these tools and techniques so that when they are moving through the internal frustrated desire alone, that they have tools and techniques to actually do that and push through past threshold when it comes to our own internal thoughts. Because even the age demographic that you're talking about, they're also subject to social media, um, social media pressures, like they're looking at other people that are on socials and they're in judgment, right? Because even when we talk about our nervous system, we go to fear or judgment first. And then there's another layer that as people are scrolling on their phone, that they can go through 20 posts in a minute. And that's 20 different emotions that their nervous system is taking in such a short period of time, which affects the person. So I love what you're doing is you're connecting people with people. And it's not like, even though we all post on social media and stuff, but it's all positive. It's all getting people into a direction that's going to make them feel good and feel good about themselves, feel good about going forward. So teach me about how broad is your reach? Like I think you mentioned that you're in California. Like, is it just California? You mentioned Chicago, you mentioned Maryland. Is it all over the US? Do you have some up here in Canada?
So far, it is just the United States, but we are in 42 states. So we are an online program. So you don't have to have a parent who can drive you there or something that's locally around you. You can just open your computer or your phone and find this community, this empowering community. One of the reasons that I wanted it to be national is, in the United States, different states are becoming different countries. And so, if we are to kind of move forward, we have to be talking across the different lived experiences. And for young women in a state like California to know what's going on in a state like Texas or Florida, and for girls to support each other with what is possible. And so I believe deeply in our republic, and I deeply want it to keep moving forward. And so I think it's important to have kind of a cross cultural exchange
Mhm.
where girls are learning about the different experiences of girls around the country and putting that together with their own civic engagement and ultimately not leaving any women behind.
Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, we are all just ordinary human beings, or sometimes I like to say we're just pockets of energy circling the same planet, right?
We are.
Yeah. And so I love that the support and everything. And have you ever thought about like bringing this up to Canada in terms of, because the idea to allow women to be um, very much guided in the way that you're guiding them. And have you ever thought about coming up to Canada at all?
Our dream is to expand. We actually started our first international discussion group this year where girls from all over the world are meeting together to discuss these principles and go through the programming and support each other and being all around the world. And I think like 22 countries were originally involved in that discussion group. So it's something where we would love every girl to meet her inner best friend and to get civically engaged in her country, whatever country that is.
Yeah.
Women's voices deserve to be in every room of every country. So it's definitely something that we are looking forward to.
And so and maybe you don't have an answer to this, but where do you see even like the teachings sort of being expanded? Because when we talk about human behavior, I mean, I've been in human behavior industry for over 17 years, and there's always more as we're always evolving. Like every single human being that I work with, I learn something new. Like just as much as I'm helping them, they're teaching me about just humanity and how different people live, because every single human being is so different as well. Uh, so where do you maybe see sort of the expansion, not just in area size, but perhaps maybe adding other elements or other professions or other tools into this beautiful thing that you've created?
I mean, I think things are always evolving and our understanding is always evolving. One of the things we do is teach the girls about their brains and about, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala and the limbic system and the different nervous systems so that they start to have a sense of fight, flight, freeze and a toolbox to respond to it. I think the answer is that research is always evolving. So we will be, adding tools as the modalities that deal with this add tools, and we'll just try to kind of break them into more easy brain hacks. I think, something we teach is just something as simple as shifting but to and. It feels like a very simple shift, but you have a very strong nervous system reaction If I said tree, I'm excited but nervous, my nervous system tracks that but as like there's a problem, right? I know I'm excited, but I'm nervous. So that might not work out. If I can say I'm excited and I'm nervous, then I can hold both, and your nervous system has a very different response,
Yeah.
right? Things are possible. You can, Carl Jung said our greatest spiritual possession is the power of paradox. So it's even something, how do we take really complicated research and turn it into very easily accessible hacks
Mhm.
for girls that they can easily use in their life and keep turning? And I will say, like 98% of our girls report that they teach the skills to other people, whether it's their friends. We had one girl who worked for a local candidate and taught the candidate in her best friend before she spoke. So I know that the girls are taking what they learn and they are spreading it within their individual communities. And that's kind of the dream, right? That they find it useful enough that they want to teach it to others.
And that's really, really powerful. Like the in hypnosis, there's like the power of suggestion. So even uh what we teach up here, I mean, jokes aside, but us Canadians, we say sorry a lot, right? And so one of the very first things that we teach, if whether it's a personal client here in the hypnosis center or if it's in the training center, that if anyone says sorry, we follow it up and ask them, what are you good at? Because if people constantly say sorry, their nervous system goes, oh, it's my fault. And it dims the light inside them. Even like, and people don't even realize that they're doing it, but their light is being dimmed, even though they don't realize that they're saying sorry. But it has an ornate reaction to their body, their nervous system, their self-esteem. So in our community here, that we are constantly asking people, what are you good at? To the point that a lot of the people in our community, if they say, I'm sorry, they're like, oh, I'm good at playing piano. Like they'll literally catch themselves and they'll do it right away. And it's comical. Like it's turned it into a joke. So it's changing things in their nervous system. Even when we're teaching, like whenever I'm teaching hypnosis or NLP, that I always add comedy in there, always. Because when people are learning, sometimes people have a transference when they're learning. They have like a negative sort of feeling about learning. They're in worry if they're going to get it wrong, or if people will like them, or if the teacher is going to like them. That so when we get people laughing, their nervous system relaxes and they're more open to actually taking in the information of learning, knowing that there is no way to do it wrong. And that's another, like the power of suggestion. A lot of the things that we like to hammer home is there's no way to do it wrong.
So I have to jump in because I was going to say women also say I'm sorry a lot.
Mm.
And the DemocraShe motto is you can't do it wrong,
Hmm.
to your point. You can't do it wrong because no matter what, you learn. You get some really important learning things. So you truly can't do it wrong.
Hmm.
So we respond to I'm sorry with a slightly different accent with you can't do it wrong
Yeah.
because we want women to truly take in this kind of freedom and joy that you're talking about, right? In their lives. Because the truly, if you believe I can't do it wrong, like I might learn something interesting, I might not get what I want, it might be slightly different, but I can't do it wrong. That woman is much more open to possibilities and challenges and her dreams because she's imbibed this very simple. So we 100% have also responded to I'm sorry and with a very similar answer.
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ho'oponopono. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So it's a beautiful old Hawaiian technique, and we like to teach everybody that. In my opinion, if people learned this in grade 7 and 8, the world would be a totally different place. And just to really shorten like a big, well, it's not really big process, but just to shorten like the long and short of it, it's basically a process of just saying like thank you in terms of like whenever anything happened, whether it's right or wrong, but it's like, thank you for the learning. And then you go to, I'm letting go. And then I love you. So when people say that to themselves, it's like saying, thank you for the learning. I'm letting go of whether it's emotions or like what we call ego low. Because people, if they can go ego high or ego low, when they're ego low, they're in self-doubt, self-pity, or anything that's unserving. So they're letting go, and then it's I love you. So it's them loving themselves. So when people repeat those things, and and that's just a very, very short version of the Ho'oponopono. But when people get into that rhythm, that flow of living their life in that way, it's easier to get to the next step. And that's what I love what you do, is that you're getting people to the next step. And the next step is going towards what it is that they want, their goals, their outcomes, their dreams, specifically at that young age. And I really believe that what it is that you're doing at the age demographic that you're teaching these beautiful young women to really have the experience that I can, I can, I can. And so it's allowing them to see the broader view and to see more possibilities, more opportunities, and going for it, taking the next step, knowing that they are deserving, and why not them, right? So I want to respect your time here. So is there any last things that you want to say or to let people know about what it is that you do? And we're gonna actually share all of like your social links and like we'll share all of your information. But is there something that you want to share with people?
The only thing I would love to share is I started a new Instagram called Inner Best Friend because it has been so successful with the DemocraShe girls. I want more. Women are kind of the population in mind, but men are welcome. Like, everybody needs an inner best friend. But yes, we only have one post up so far. But if you follow Inner Best Friend, you'll learn much more about that skill and that voice and that way to support yourself, which I think, Tree, you and I both want people to have that access to that love and that support and that kindness. So if you are interested on Instagram, Inner Best Friend.
Awesome. And we'll definitely have that linked below for sure. And I really want to thank you for being here. Like I love your story. I love your passion, and I really hope that a variation or that you extend up here to Canada to help women, young women, and even like people going through it. Like you said, they come back around and they give back within your community. I just think that's a absolutely beautiful thing. So thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you, Tree. And I'm a huge fan of what you do and the space you create. So I really appreciate you having me on.
You're so welcome.
And thanks for listening to another great episode of the Root of It All podcast with Tree. So if you want to check us out on Instagram or Facebook, you can go to Business Growth Results on either of those platforms, or you can even go to businessgrowthresults.com if you have a suggested topic or theme, or you want to get a free hypnosis download. So we'll talk to you soon. Till next time, see you later.